Canada has avoided U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs for now with a 30-day reprieve on the imposition of 25% duties. The relief comes after Canada agreed to a number of commitments aimed at strengthening border security.
I think we won the narrative, guys, over the weekend. It was all over the news, including on Fox News, yeah. And we needed to stand strong. We needed to come out with $155 billion. We needed to make sure that we were pushing back because President Trump also is that strength.
So Canada says it won the narrative, but it's one thing to win the story, it's another to win a trade war. And our next guest says it won't be an easy path for Canada. Stephen Polas is a former governor of the Bank of Canada and now a special advisor to also law firm. Steve Polas, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Pleasure being here. You were spelling out a scenario in the speech recently where you said the trade war, if it happens to its full extent with the U.S., we could see the Canadian dollar drop. So
well, both countries will suffer.
Don't suffer the consequences of tariffs. How does that scenario work?
Yeah, that's a conceivable scenario. I'm not necessarily predict. Usually,
the only one who will win the tariff is the government.
But for sure, the exchange rate. That's why we have a exchange rate to help us adapt to major shocks. This would be one, and we would expect the dollar to go down probably quite significantly. And to the extent that it does, what it does is it offsets that tariff effect on the price that the American consumer pays.
Because their buying power stays strong. Right?
Raise tax, raise price in our country, in Canada.
In the limit, if the tariff adds 25%.
But there's going to be a big problem when it comes to affordability.
The exchange rate could go up 25%, and then it makes it the same for them. Which, by the way, also means that
well, it's going to be hard for the business to balance the sales target.
So that's
they have to reduce or need to ask for the raise.
But we need to be thinking about those kinds
nationwide, raise minimum wage.
That sounds like a free lunch, that all the effects we're talking about disappear. But they don't. Without exchange rate depreciation, would reduce the income of all Canadians.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Affordability.
Purchasing power of America.
So the gap on household income and all of these things just widens.
How you balance your income,
and
your future savings, your daily spending till your monthly.
It claims that it's the exporting company that pays for the tariffs.
Where do you see the dollar going in this sort of scenario? Like it's below 70 cents now, just below like 69.8 or something. What kind of range are we talking about there?
So realistically, we need to be thinking of sort of a double-digit percentage decline. So it's sort of the 60-ish cent range or low 60s would offset a lot of the tariff effect, both to Americans and to Canadian exporters. But as I said, spread the pain then to all Canadians. And in that scenario, of course, that would boost Canadian prices. That's the main mechanism that would play. And
increase, boost increase.
It would already be pretty soft. It probably wouldn't become an actual inflation problem. It'd be a little bit like back in 2016 or 2015 when the oil prices collapsed. In 2015, Canadian dollar declined by 20%.
It was like 94 cents on the low 70s.
That's right. So 20%. And the interest rate had fallen to kind of cushion the blow of the economy. And as a result, the Canadian dollar effect, the inflation rate went up by about 1 percentage point for about a year or a little longer than a year, and then faded back to this.
All of these variables and all of this volatility speaks to the challenge that Tiff Macklin, your successor at the bank, has laid out, that it is so difficult to model the full impact of these tariffs. We've never seen anything like it before. But the estimates is that it's pretty much economic carnage, even if it is offset in some way, like a 5% GDP drop, 2 to 3% contraction, 10% unemployment. How do you see it?
Well, I say it exactly like that. I'm sure we can't do any better than that kind of analysis from my old colleagues. The important thing that we got to keep mentioning is that 5% or so decline in Canadian incomes. That's forever. Okay, that doesn't just fade away on us a couple of years later. Even if the tariffs go away, then we get to reverse it. Sure, unless there's scar. There can be permanent damage. Investment decisions that were made under during the first Trump, then we get to reverse it. Sure, unless there's scar. There can be permanent damage. Investment decisions that were made under during the first Trump term. Companies reduce their investment in Canada,
Yeah.
increase their investments in the United States.
You don't get enough sales
today
to survive,
and
to pay the people,
never gets
right people.
So,
Well, you have to cut those who you don't need.
So I think the most important thing, as the governor said, what I've described is a couple of extreme scenarios. The real world's going to be somewhere in between. Plus, there will be fiscal actions by our governments to kind of complicate that picture. And so you have to take all that into account to decide what's appropriate.
Well, there's also the possibility that he goes after Europe and he goes after other guys, and then it becomes a global phenomenon, not just a continental one. That creates even more uncertainty and cost. But you talk about fiscal action from the government.
Yes.
Going into COVID, the balance sheet was a lot better than before because they took on all of this debt to protect the provinces, essentially. And the economy had a better spine of strength, it seems, that with the productivity weaknesses that are there now. We were much better equipped as a country to handle COVID, as tough as that was, than it seems we are with tariffs right now.
Now that we finished that health crisis, that coronavirus, now we're going to have this new president of the United States. So we're going to face a labor crisis.
And the economy shook it off quite well. Before Christmas that year, everything was
Got this new president, they got a new, quite new policy,
and so some of the
new solution to his country.
underestimates because of that. Could be worse. It could be a little worse. But I think that's,
It's liberal. It's not like Joe Biden.
It's going to really be
It's a new leadership.
We're finding a way to not have that. Then, of course, that's the better way to go.
So the push now, lower total trade barriers, get projects going faster, right? There is an urgency on lingering issues that have never had sort of the urgency to get dealt with before. But there's still all of this uncertainty because at some point the threat of the tariff functions like a tariff. Right. And people don't make the investment in Canada or they don't make it at all because of the uncertainty. So what can you reasonably do in the time you have as a series of national and subnational governments to proof as much as you can and mitigate against what could potentially happen?
Well, I think the biggest thing you can do, find the internal trade barriers is office. We've been saying it for years. It's been there forever. Well, but that's the benefit of the crisis. Well, let's see what we can do with that. We could offset the entire effect.
Only the government get the benefit. Get the money. But it's not for the people. They will not get the right income they need.
The things that we could consider doing, and that would be good if that happened. But the fact is, we can't pretend this isn't happening. And as you say, it's just a threat.
It is a big threat. Dangerous threat.
Maybe we have those decisions like last time ahead to the United States. Canadians have over $1 trillion worth of assets on the ground in the United States today. That's a big investment. That's more than the Americans have invested in Canada by far. And so that kind of is a natural hedge. And of course, companies are not good as again. So maybe we should do even more on that. So that means the economy will slow regardless of whether debts go on or not.
Yeah.
I think the best solution then is to focus on investing.
There's that kind of crisis. The circulation of the spending of the money will slow down.
And bring policies.
But people don't have any money.
Digitalization of our companies, embracing AI.
Our future savings in the middle of the line. You have to use it to survive.
Overall tax rates, what are you think about? Because the uncertainty is going to be a sweet.
Yeah, no, I think it's incentivizing. One of the reasons the U.S. economy is so strong right now is investment. Yeah. And from the IRA, tax credits combined. We need something that's bigger in order to offset that uncertainty that's there. And think of it as giving people a fishing rod because it performs forever as opposed to giving them fish today and another tomorrow. I think if we focus on that with our resources, limited as they are, that'll pay off better in the longer term and make us more resilient.
Just as a final point on that, though, the U.S. has done the IRA to great effect, right? Inflation Canada with COVID deficits all the time, essentially. So, like, how do you compete against that? The reserve currency of the biggest economy willing to add $1 trillion to the debt every 100 days. Like, it's impossible to keep up.
Yes. So that's really unsustainable. The only thing that we can say that's positive about that is that that deficit is driving investment in the government. Therefore, in effect, it's productive long into the future. Whereas if you have a deficit that's driving consumption, it does not have something like that. So let's at least look at that. I think that they'll have to deal with that in some way. They can tariff whatever they want out. They'll have to be tax changes. I guess all that. We're in better shape. So we do have the ability, I think, to step up and focus on that. If companies are investing well, modernizing, that'll be job creation. That's better than giving away money.
Yeah, giving away, but there's no money coming in. All coming out.
I was appreciate the time to say my life. The Prime Minister thinks President Trump is serious when he says he wants Canada to join the United States. Justin Trudeau said that privately to a group of business leaders, policy experts, and politicians in Toronto today. It was part of an economic summit, a brainstorm on how to make the economy less reliant on the United States as its president threatens a trade war. Well, Goldie Hyder was in attendance there. He's the president and CEO of the Business Council of Canada, and he joins us now. Goldie, good to speak with you. A lot going on, as you just heard. I wonder if what insight or reaction you can share with us on what the Prime Minister said in that meeting and what we have reported about what happened in the phone conversations with President Trump, that they were given the heads up that the president may start threatening treaties, and President Trump started dangling a conversation about the 1908 treaty on the Canada-U.S. border. And this seems to
It's dangerous.
He's pretty serious about
It's like we need to use our savings.
David, thanks for having me. And obviously, I was in a meeting that was in closed door meeting, so I won't speak about what specifically took place there. Suffice to say that I'm a little surprised at all the attention the comments are receiving, simply because it's not a secret. The president, I'm not talking about this once or twice, but you say something 10
People die emotionally, physically, and financially because of this kind of dangerous tariff.
That's part of
dangerous threat.
Today is people who normally might be, battling on
people lost job. People feel bad about how the country feel.
The president's comments have effectively galvanized our country and have unified us. Because what it served to do is to say, what's going on here? And how can we let that happen? As Minister McKinnon said earlier,
we're all suffering. Physically, emotionally, financially.
We're going to move forward. How do you do that?
Dangerous threat.
Today is an opportunity. Governments are going to come and go with all due respect, but the people in that room who really represent Canadians found a way to get past their differences to say we've got to work together and see this as an opportunity, see this as a wake-up call to strengthen our own country. The president is not responsible for the interprovincial trade barriers.
It is a wake-up call. What do you think? It's all threat. Our emotions, our physical, our financial. It's affecting our mental health.
We all talk about like they're available at the corner store. These are things that Canada has done.
We lose our job. We get stressed, our emotions, getting up, getting depressed. And then we have to use our savings. Well, our financial future savings let me suffer.
With the premiers, whom I'm told are unified. And all it takes, David, is simply to say we mutually recognize each other's regulations and laws. If we can't do that inside Canada, then we have no right to be lecturing other countries about protectionism. No, look, I take your points there, but I do want to circle back. Like, you're surprised that these comments are getting so much attention. I appreciate President Trump has said these things before, or versions of these things before. But the fact that a senior U.S. official felt the need to give the Canadian government a heads up, and then President Trump is getting into the granular, details of a 1908 treaty between the United Kingdom and the United States. Does that alarm you in any way that he's going through the fine print of how the continent is structured? David, if we spent our time thinking about what's going on in Washington and how to appeal to an audience of one, we're losing this moment. It is far more.
We're all losing.
Canadians.
We're all losing.
You are wanted this back.
We lose our mind.
You have something that the United States wants, in which case I would tell you, so does a lot of other countries in the world. Look what we did when we sent the Germans back, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Greeks on our LNG. Just today, it's being reported that America and Japan are working on a way to get LNG to Japan.
This threat driving us crazy.
what the world wants. Enough.
It's not normal.
We need to focus on where we are. It was music to my ears to hear a government that was anti-nuclear.
We will lose our job.
That was anti-LNG.
We'll suffer emotionally.
All of these things as being critical.
We have to sacrifice our savings, financial savings.
So let's seize this moment. Let's not be distracted. Let's take it as an opportunity.
And that's drive us crazy now.
To strengthen Canada, to come together, to work in the best interests of Canadians, and to build our prosperity.
Dangerous threat.
If we don't do it now, we're going to go back to regularly scheduled programming, and that's not in our national interest. If we don't realize that today, I don't know what it would take. Look, as someone who's been on the air too much, I wouldn't mind if it's regularly scheduled programming. I take your point on the economy. But look, I get the importance of having the conversations we're having in that room today and all the different interests, and maybe there is the urgency to knock down some of these trade barriers and clean up regulatory things to speed things along. But someone who wasn't in that room today was Doug Ford, who called elections totally on the intention of dealing with the United States. And he said he didn't need to be in a room with a bunch of people he's talked to 1,000 times when he knows what needs to be done. I mean, what do you say when the leader of Canada's biggest province, even though he's in the middle of an election campaign, says something about your efforts? Well, look, he's in the middle of an election campaign, so I won't be commenting on that. What I will say is I'm looking forward to go to Washington with 13 premiers next week, a group of CEOs that have businesses in America that have interests in terms of deepening our relationships. Because, David, you know what we can't get away from are the facts. And just like Canada has to deal with the facts that it has when it comes to getting our natural resources to market, we also have to share with Americans that their economic security is deeply intertwined with Canada's. Why do you think he has the interest in Canada? I mean, it's our critical minerals, it's our oil, it's our gas, it's our potash, it's our nuclear, it's our AI.
Yeah, we're resourceful. Resourceful country.
Canada, where we are global champions. And one of the things
we have good supply to provide, but this kind of situation is hard. That we put our backs in United States now. They have this new leader, new president, new leadership, new idea, solution. Now we have to struggle. We have to suffer.
We need to be ambitious. We need to have a growth strategy because clearly we have what everybody wants, David. So let's not be weak.
That's why we should have our enough resources to our country. Don't always put your back to other countries.
How we're going to get North America right, and how we're going to leverage our relationships and our trade agreements that we have.
We all suffer now.
We have these things before us. We just need to use them. A lot of the reorientation of markets for some of the big things that's going to take time, right? Like, well beyond the 30-day pause, for example, on the tariff. So it's an effort that's going to need to be medium to long term for a lot of it. But only as a final point, and on going back to the internal trade thing, the interprovincial barriers, she says a lot of this can be knocked down and flattened within 30 days. I mean, do you buy that? Because I've been in a lot of previous conferences where they talk about this and it doesn't really happen except on the margins. Do you think there's enough urgency that you can see real meaningful progress by election? Well, it said that a crisis focuses the mind, and it's clearly focused the mind. I mean, we have Premiers Eby and Legault and others talking about the importance of, oil and gas flowing east to west and west to east. It's amazing to hear that. We have a prime minister who's declaring how huge fan he is of nuclear. I mean, these are all facts that have simply just caught up to our time. So can we bring those barriers down? Yes, we can. In fact, we met with Minister Anand yesterday and a group of chief executives to talk about, Lego mobility, talk about, how it is that these barriers are a tariff on Canadians imposed by Canadians on Canadians. It's a tax. And if we don't bring them down now, when your economy is, yes, it's okay. We had 76,000 jobs created this month, largely because how well the Americans are doing. We want to make sure that we control our own destiny. It's supposedly, I believe it's been said that there's about 4% of GDP growth trapped in those interprovincial barriers. That is a phenomenal amount. If we get half of that, people will see that to their benefit. Costs will come down, more jobs will be created, and we'll have economic growth in our country. And that's how you maintain your sovereignty. You don't become dependent on others. You become independent by growing your economy and playing to your strengths. And part of our strengths is our human resources. We have really smart people here, David, and I think we're going to figure our way through this. Goldie Hyder, always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you for being here late on a Friday. Good to be with you. minister is finally acknowledging the elephant in the room, issuing a dire warning about Donald Trump. Justin Trudeau says the new U.S. president is serious when he says he wants Canada to become America's 51st state. The stark admission came at a Canada-U.S. economic summit after journalists had left the event. CBC's Evan Dyer has the details.
So as much as I know the media would love to stick around for the Q&A, they're not going to be able to do that.
The doors were closed, but the mic was still on. The CBC News camera didn't capture all of Trudeau's remarks about annexation, but the Toronto Star captured more, and he made it clear he didn't believe the tariffs were about trade or drugs or migrants. I suggest that not only does the Trump
Because of the personal need of the government.
that may be even why they keep talking about absorbing us and making us the 51st state, he told the room. They're very aware of our resources, of what we have, and they very much want to be able to benefit from those. Business mogul Arlene Dickinson was in the room with Trudeau as a member of his advisory council, and she says his remarks align with her own thinking.
I think my belief is very strong and has been. I've articulated this many times in my posts and my discussions with people that I do believe the objective of Donald Trump is to take over our resources.
Trudeau has reportedly made similar comments privately to free news, raising questions about how long the government has viewed this as Trump's endgame.
There can be questions to the Prime Minister and to other ministers who are involved. When did you know this was a serious thing? Did you know he wasn't joking that first time? Like, what's really been going on behind the scenes here?
What I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state. The U.S. president has been open about wanting to use economic force to annex Canada. He's threatened close ally Denmark with war if it doesn't hand over Greenland.
I don't think that sovereignty is a concept that troubles Donald Trump a whole lot. He thinks this is an artificially drawn border. And so I think this kind of blows the doors off of everything and really kind of opens up like really strange conversations about how we will protect our sovereignty.
Canada made a show of activity at the border, trying to prove it's serious about drugs and migrants to address Trump's stated concerns.
He needed to be able to say there was a threat to the United States. That comes in the form of fentanyl and border protection. And so it is a distraction. It is something that needs to be dealt with, but it's a distraction from what he really then talks about, which is access to our resources and access to having Canada be part of the United States.
The apparent realization that Canada itself may be the target, raising fresh questions about how this country defends itself. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.